Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You're talking bikes, progression, tech, jumps. Damn it, I don't know why I just stumbled through that. Why am I changing it? We need the music again. Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain bikes, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You're back at the parking lot. The stoke is high. You're talking fitness, progression, tech. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you today?
Oh, man, Danny, we got the trifecta of bike riding this weekend. Or this week, I should say. I mean, we had jumps. We had drops. We had tech. It doesn't get any better than this. I can't wait to get into it. How are you doing, buddy?
Yes, I'm great. It has been really, really interesting riding lately, and the progression has been off the charts. And I'm a little banged up. We'll talk about that soon, but grateful that it's not any worse. And there's definitely been some progression, and there's definitely been some lessons that I have learned and that I would like to pass on and get some listener feedback on, and also some insight to share with listeners. Really, really interesting stuff. The synchronicities of mountain biking and life are abundant, and that's what we love talking about here at Ride and Laugh Podcast. And so let's get into it. We will start with our listener comments from our podcast number 32, which is From Fear to Flow, Be the Mountain Biker You Want to Be.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a really cool episode talking about being able to turn off that fear response and unlock all of your skills. So we had talked about breaking bumps in that episode as well. And Nick at Salty Shreds, he says, my hot take, appreciate the bumps as an obstacle. Use them to master dicey berms and make its own challenge. The right mindset will turn any wall into a rock climbing wall.
I love it.
And so here we are complaining about breaking bumps. And Nick's like, well, why don't you just flip the perspective to using breaking bumps and making the best out of the trail? What's the best that can happen?
I love it. I love it. Flipping the perspective. And you know what? We talk about that all the time. How did we not see that? We're like the perspective flipping guys.
Yeah. Well, no one's perfect. I mean, we're a mountain bike community here, so
close. We're close.
Yeah. I mean, have you seen yourself lately?
Have you seen yourself?
That is an awesome perspective, and it's so funny because I started talking in a lot of this language of like everything happens for us and not to us, and what can we learn out of this, and even if it seems like something that's not what we would have chosen, what can we find to appreciate in that experience? And so I started using all that language, and you started to adopt that language. And when you started to reflect that back to me, when I would be having a day or a moment, or I would say something and you would reflect that back to me, I was like, oh my gosh, wow, like this is so cool. Because you know, I mean, I remember the first couple times it happened, you were like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel like I'm just repeating what you said, but isn't this the way you should look at it? Or what if you looked at it this way? I'd like to reference you're sorting through the book of Dan, the book of Danny. I'd like to reference chapter 4.
I got the Rolodex out.
Like, where did you get? Why do you have my gratitude journal? Give that back to me. That's not. No, you're not supposed to be reading that. It's all podcasting in here and mountain biking.
That's right. That's right.
Get you write about your family once in a while. I'm kidding, honey. You're all over the gratitude journal. Trust me. All right. So yes, excellent point, Nick. Excellent perspective. I love that. So how we change our perspective, how we look at things. And if we miss something, call us out on it. And not even, that's not an aggressive way at all. You know, just say, hey, what about looking at it like this instead? And I freaking love it. I freaking love it. I also love this comment from our buddy Dylan, who we met at Mountain Creek Bike Park when we went there. And he's an awesome dude. And he commented on this episode. I went back and re-listened to this episode on my way to Mountain Creek and kept visualizing the two features I wanted to tick off, and I got them both. Pipeline Drop and Phantom Drop. You guys helped me get them both. Forever grateful for this pod and the awesome friends I've made through it. So,
yo, Dylan.
I mean, I don't know if what makes me happier, like actually getting a drop or hearing Dylan be like, the podcast is helping me unlock my skills and progress. And thank you guys, and listening to this on the way there. And this is just so cool. So thanks for letting us know that, Dylan. And
I love hearing about other people's accomplishments as much as I love talking about ours. Like when I hear a story like that, and because we've all been there. We've all been there where you just riding by the same feature and you're like, why am I not doing this? You know, and to know that at some point during that ride, he was like, you know what? I got this. I'm doing this. Man, that's awesome stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome stuff. Yeah.
And you know what they say with the visualization, and we've been talking about this throughout, all of our podcasts. Even in the very beginning, we were talking about visualization, and I think a lot of what the science says is that your brain doesn't really know the difference. If you're visualizing that you're doing it and how it feels, and that you're succeeding at it, your brain is starting to believe that you can do it. And so, if you know that your skills are in there, and then your brain's actually believing, I can do this. I feel like I've done this before because you've been visualizing it and succeeding at it.
Yeah.
So it really works, and it's really cool. And that spins very nicely into this next comment we have from Zan at Sploosh MTB, who's just awesome at commenting, obviously a very bright guy. And he wrote, "Fear is all too real. Unfortunately, it's insanely hard to hit the ground, spend all that time off the bike, meaning if you were to crash and get hurt, and tell yourself you should go do that again. However, I feel like every time you get back to a point where you feel you can do it again, you're coming back 10 times more ready for it. Like Sage was saying, though, positivity really breeds success. I like to picture myself clearing the jumps and finding landings, never thinking, what happens if I case that gap, while still keeping it rational." So what he means is keeping it rational. It has to stay within the realm of possibility that you believe it, right? You're not going to be looking at a 50-foot gap jump yet and saying, I can clear that, unless you're already clearing 40-footers, right? I mean, it depends on who's listening to me right now. But so you got to keep it within the realm of rationality. That's why I say I don't fall off my mountain bike, but when I do, I don't get hurt. Because I can't actually believe that I won't fall off my mountain bike. I can believe that I won't get hurt badly. And so far that's been true. And I was telling my wife about that, and she was like, maybe you just switch it. You know what I mean? Maybe I will say I'm not going to fall off my bike anymore. That's right. Yeah. I think maybe I'm unlimited. Anything's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, okay. You know what? You know what, though? I to go back to Zan's comment, how many times have we looked at Strava and we've seen that title, Redemption Ride, or like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we've all been there where you've fallen on a feature. We actually had one this week at Mount Penn where I got a redemption on a feature. So I'll wait to tell that story. But I was excited to clear that.
Yes. And I love what he's saying about coming back stronger. I mean, most of the time that when you crash on a mountain bike and maybe you get hurt and you're off the bike for a little bit, most people around you are like, so you're going to be done. You're done with that, right? You're not going to be doing that anymore.
We're good,
right?
Like,
no, I can't wait to get back. And I can't wait to get back to exactly where I got hurt so I can do it better. And that positive, like, I know I could do that. I know what I did wrong now. I know I can do that. And I'm going to come back better. And you're visualizing it. Your body's believing it. Your brain's believing it. And that positivity, breeds more success. And then he's thinking about clearing the jumps and not thinking about casing, just only the best that can happen.
Good stuff, Zan. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Zan. Always. So this is the time of the podcast that we talk about rating and reviewing. So on your podcast player, if you haven't done so already, please go in and give us a 5-star review. And if you can leave a rating, do that. If you're listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, rate and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when the new podcast or a new hot take comes out. And this is where I normally say that we have reviews on Apple that I can read. And we do. But for whatever reason, when I logged into Apple today, all of our reviews were gone. So I did contact Apple customer service, but all of our awesome reviews are just not there.
What?
So I'll let everyone know if you need to go back in and redo it. But hopefully it's just a glitch from Apple. Yeah. I think it's big. Who do you think it is? It's big podcast trying to slow down the Ride and Laugh success train. You think it's Joe Rogan? is probably Rogan. Look, man, I mean, there's abundance for everyone, Joe. We can all fit into this podcast space.
Seriously,
yeah.
Joe. Come on now.
We were willing to share with him, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, look, Joe, if you want to have us on as guests, even after this whole Apple podcast debacle,
I suppose, yeah.
we would consider it. Yeah. No promises, though. All right, let's talk about our rides. And we had an abundance of rides. So we knew that we were going to, on Sunday, we knew that we were going to get a tour of this very, very technical area which is called Natalie or NADS. Yeah.
NADS, yeah.
There's a lot there, but we were getting a tour of, and we'll talk about more about what else is there, but we were getting a tour of the tech. And by the tech, I mean these big giant slabs. And so we thought, okay, we were both able to take Friday off. It's been beautiful weather. Let's get up to Mount Penn and let's ride some of the slabs because we've just been doing jumps. So let's tune up our tech a little bit. We both named our Strava ride Tech Tune Up without talking to each other. And so
great minds.
Yeah. So what was your recollection of that ride?
You know, the one that stuck out to me the most, going back to Zan's comment, was Carla. That was the infamous slab that took out my bike. I mean, it literally cracked the frame. I somehow survived that with not too much of an injury, but man, I was itching to get back to that slab.
So the last time we rode the Carla slab, you crashed and you were okay. But when we got back to the parking lot, you realized that your chainstay was busted. Yeah. And it's a really steep slab. There's no room for crashing on this thing.
Yeah. It's a technical slab. It's not what makes Carla unique is it's not one long slab. It's actually like two slabs and then this like weird technical gnar section to get off this. It's actually like 3 pieces. It's actually 4 pieces. But yeah, we went over
2 middles.
There are definitely 2 middles on this for sure. But yeah, dude, I gotta tell you, I knocked that thing out the park, man. I was in full control. Yeah. It felt great. Yeah. It felt really good. Yeah.
Yes. It's like there's a top section that's just kind of chunky and a little awkward. And then you actually get to the slab and it's like, it's really kind of like 2 big rocks. And someone has built a connector between these 2 rocks that you have to hit. And then to get off of the last rock, you have to get off at an angle. And then once you get off of the rock, then there's more chunk. So it really just kind of keeps on going. And yeah, you got onto this thing and I've never seen such control. The brake control and the body control, like there was never a doubt.
Yeah. And you too, man, you looked really good. And then you took that and we went over to the infamous D. Snyder skinnies on Twisted Sister. You tried the reverse. I don't even know if I can explain this. You might have to take over here. The reverse Snyder.
Yeah, so the D. Snyder is the teeter-totter skinny. And right next to that is another just incredibly long skinny. It's raw tree, so it's got like the bumps of where the branches were cut off. Yeah. And there was a line where that the guys explained to us in the past where you reverse onto the skinny next to D. Snyder. They also kind of merge into each other. So you have to kind of see it on YouTube to understand exactly what we're talking about. But it's an uphill skinny. To get up onto it is pretty steep. And then it's an uphill skinny. And then ideally you would exit it and then turn around and then do the D. Snyder skinny. So it's kind of like a figure 8 if you were to do it this way. So I was like, I think I want to try doing that figure 8. I want to try doing the uphill. And you were like, well, let's do it downhill first. And I was like, no, I'm just going to go uphill. And you're like, okay. And so I could just visualize this happening. I could just see it happening. And on like my 3rd try, I got like 3/4 of the way up. I was almost there. Yeah. And so I just kept attacking it and I just couldn't get the gearing right. I just couldn't. I was having a hard time getting up onto this thing. And then once I was up onto it, I wasn't always committing. And to fall off of it, it's like a 3 or 4 foot log. And then you're on your bike also. So I have really long legs And so I could put a leg out, but I was still falling over each time, like my handlebars, like my brake levers were in different places. My dropper post was getting like mangled, the lever for that, like each fall was, and I was getting bruised up.
Yeah.
And I probably attacked this thing like 11, 12 times. And then finally I was like, forget it. And then you went at it and you have your three try rule and you didn't get it, surprisingly, because you'd gotten it before on your single speed. Only when you put a foot out, you're not 6'3".
Oh, not.
So the falls were very different. When you put a foot out, what happened? You just kept falling.
I laid down in the grass. It was a tumble roll. It was terrible.
Yeah.
It was really funny.
You were like, go gadget leg. Oh crap. I don't have one of those. Only Danny's got the go gadget leg.
Yes.
So then we get to Sunday and we drive a couple hours north to.
Hold on now. You skipped up our whole.
We skipped
the whole day. Friday.
That's right. My list is backwards, so I apologize. Yes. So before we even left Mount Penn, you said the weather's perfect. I'm calling it. We're going to Phoenixville Bike Park tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? It's just been too nice out. It's just been too nice out.
Too nice to pass up. Absolutely. Yeah. And it was the right call.
It was the right call. We get a message shortly thereafter from Steve that he and Nick, Salty Shreds, who also is a listener and loves the podcast, were going to be at Phoenixville Bike Park Saturday morning. And so we're like, oh, perfect. Like we just decided that we were going to go there. And I had also messaged my buddy Scott. So Scott came and Steve was there and Nick was there. And when we pulled up, of course, in comes Eric with his kids, Lucas and Mia, who we had met the week before. So we had like a really good crew and everyone was really good jumpers. And so tell us about Phoenixville Bike Park on Saturday.
Man, you know what? I walked away with two things from that ride. And that was I had brought my BMX bike. So the ride previous, I was riding yours. Yes,
the bike behind you right now. Yeah.
Yes, I brought my BMX bike. And one of the takeaways was don't lend your BMX bike to someone that knows how to ride a BMX, because I struggled on this BMX. And then I was like, Nick, why don't you go ahead and try it? And he rode the bejesus out of this thing. And I was like, oh, my Lord, here I am like trying to struggle to get out. And he's just whipping this thing out to the side. And I was just like, I'm looking at the bike myself and I'm like, there's something wrong with this thing.
Where's the turbo boost button that he found that you didn't even know was on that bike? This thing has nitrous? I didn't even know this had nitrous on it. Where? Yes. Nick, how did you activate that nitrous boost? Everyone there was really good jumpers. So Scott lives within bike riding distance of Phoenixville Bike Park. And he told me when they built it, he he didn't know how to jump essentially, or very rudimentary. And so he can just show up and just do 10 minutes after work. It's so close. So I had no idea what kind of jumper he was, but he was boosted. I mean, he was flying and really, really confident and comfortable. And that's repetition and that's practice, and super nice guy. Really enjoyed getting to hang out with him. Mountain bikers are the best, of course. And Steve at Ben Spokes, we already know he loves jumping. He's super comfortable in the air. That's his jam.
Yeah.
And then Nick is like another level. I mean, everyone there could jump, and you and I we're getting there. We're jumping well also.
We're getting there.
Okay. These guys all, had a little bit more experience than us, but we're getting there. We're comfortable and we're having fun. Nick has like he could just boost to the moon. And then he throws this whip in that's like a full body whip. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, literally air traffic control was probably calling we have an issue here. There's a bike in the sky. I mean, he's unbelievably high.
Yeah. That was my second takeaway, Danny, was if you're going to run a train, and I got this wonderful train shot. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see this train shot. But the second takeaway was
so cool.
Take the best, steeziest rider and put him in the back.
Yeah. So I'm in the very front. Guess who's in the front of that train? No dust. Yeah. Steve was like, man, that was dusty back there. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. No, yeah. Put the lanky who barely does anything in the air in front. But no, it was awesome. It was so much fun. And everyone was just geeking out, talking bikes and talking jumps and different places that they like to ride and places that they want us to go. And Nick and Steve both love the trail build. And so they were talking about all the stuff that they're working on. It's really cool.
I know I recommend going to the Phoenixville Bike Park, but my initial thought earlier in the week was we should take Saturday off. But I was like, no, it's a nice day. In retrospect, I was feeling pretty tired, but that actually led to me being off the bike and being able to help, other people or even film. And I got to tell you, we had talked about Lucas the week before, and he was Eric's son, and he was like this close to clearing that last jump. And I was fortunate enough. That's right. And I was fortunate enough to watch this kid clear that last jump, and the whole place erupted. It was like, yo, Lucas, and the smile on his face. And, not just Lucas, by the way, Mia. I mean, she's going to clear that jump. She is going to clear that jump. The both of them are progressing like crazy. Yeah.
And Eric said that Lucas was talking about that all week. He was talking about going back to the Phoenixville Bike Park. It's about a 40-minute drive for them. Yeah. And Eric, man, really great mountain bike daddying. But everyone was watching and everyone was cheering, and it was an awesome moment for sure. It's really cool to see. And he's going to be an awesome shredder. And Mia, I mean, they're just unlimited. But this is what happens when you have repetition and practice and, kids that are having fun on bikes. It's cool.
Yep. Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Now we're ready to talk about this ride that we had been waiting for maybe, I don't know, it feels like a year, probably 6 months.
Yeah. And
we had met Aaron before. We have followed him on Strava. We have seen him riding these trails at Natalie, and there's massive jump lines. There is massive, awesome downhill runs.
Oh, yeah.
And there are steep, long slabs and all sorts of different size slabs. I think a lot of which he has had a hand in uncovering and finding. And these were what we were going for. You had messaged him. You said, we are interested in those slabs. We didn't really know what we were getting into. But when we got up there, there was an awesome crew of Aaron's friends and our buddy Dane Clay from Reading, from Mount Penn at Reading.
Yes.
Who had called Aaron, and then we got a text from Dane like, I'm going to be up there. We were like, awesome. Yeah, Dane's the man. And Dane's a high vibe guy. Anyone that's ever met Dane is a high vibe mountain bike dude.
Yeah.
So what was your impression of Natalie as we're getting into that ride? Tell me what you thought, what was going through your head?
Man, I mean, what was going through my head and then what I actually saw were two different things, and this is the classic GoPro effect. I'm watching all these videos that Aaron posts on Strava and on Instagram. And by the way, he must be a professional photographer because his videos and pictures are unbelievable. I'll leave a link to his Instagram down below. But my goodness, in my head was like, yeah, we got these slabs, no problem. I mean, they look long. And then I get to them and I'm like, oh my Lord, like these things were huge. They were the biggest slabs I'd ever seen. I mean, they were absolutely mind-blowingly scary.
He said that one of them was, he said he thinks it's the longest slab in the East Coast of North America.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you have like these big giant rock areas, the rock is, if it's steep, it's too craggy. It's not rideable. So to have like the right kind of rock that is steep and long enough, but also smooth enough to be able to ride bikes on is a little bit unusual. I didn't know we had this kind of stuff in Pennsylvania. I mean, so you had told Aaron, like we want to warm up.
Yeah.
So the first slabs we did, like it's just on a ridge. So you don't ride into it. You literally have to like just get your feet on the pedals and then ride down it.
fall off it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we clip in. So these guys are like jumping onto their bikes and going, but we have to clip in. And so we're like holding onto trees or holding onto other people and then going. I found it to be very awkward.
Yeah. You did. I did not struggle as hard as you. And I think that was a couple of reasons. One, you usually take a little bit longer to get warmed up. And two, I got that endo turn in my back pocket. So I kind of pulled down the trail and then endo turned in, and that was super smooth for me. I got to tell you, watching all of those guys clear it so easily was what, and to me, it was like, this is the warm up. Like, this is pretty, I mean, it's small, but it's really steep. Like, you literally fall off of it. Yeah.
I totally agree. But these guys are riding there every Sunday. Or twice a week. And some of them are on e-bikes and they're just lapping these things. And they made everything look so easy. But so we get warmed up and then we head over really right to the big slabs. I mean, and we get to it and the guys are just giving us like great coaching advice and ride advice, and everyone's like super patient. But I felt really good in the first two really big slabs. I was shocked how long they were. I was shocked how steep they were. Like in person, we have some footage of you. I was just taking footage of you looking at it and you taking the footage, like trying to climb back up. And it's so incredibly steep. The camera does not do it justice. We had no idea what we were getting into. Have we ever ridden anything that steep?
No, it's unreal. Man, I did want to go back real quick to something, because I don't know if anybody else does this, but like, as we're at that first feature, like the first ridge drop that was absolutely nothing, I'm like studying everybody. I don't know if you're doing this, not like judgment, but just like studying everybody. I'm like, okay, who am I going to follow in this group? They were all pro level. Like, they were so good. Every single, there wasn't, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know who I'm going to follow. But like you said, they were so kind. They're generous with their time, but they're also generous with their knowledge. And there was one the youngest kid, he was a kid. The youngest kid there was actually the best rider, in my opinion. I mean, this kid, Patrick, was unbelievable. But because he was so skilled, I had to tell Patrick, I said, listen, I'm going to follow you in. This is what I need you to do. Like, he was so good that he could take coaching from me. Like, I was like, Patrick, I need you to go really slow, and I need you to show me this line here. Because he was so good that he could like launch the slab. Like, he was literally launching into it. Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh.
He was on an e-bike. And so like we would be at the top of the slab and then he would do it. And then, a minute and a half later, he's back at the top and he's doing it again. And, so he's doing like 4 laps while we're just like, getting ready to do one, and each lap he's going faster, or now he's jumping half of it, or gosh. He's 15 years old and he's just supremely skilled. He's supremely talented. The guys are all joking, like, oh, you don't want to follow the 15-year-old, like he's special. He's a special kind of talent, and he's a really nice guy, just an unbelievably nice young man. His parents were there, and I'm not surprised. Donnie and Mary Beth, his parents were incredibly nice, and this kid was something special. And so on the really big long one, on the longest one, all the guys did it. They went as a train. Yes. Which we didn't expect. And it was like person, and then like 20 rocks just like rolling down after them, because I mean, it was like an avalanche of riders and then the rocks really following after them. It is so steep and they're going so fast, and we're just like, wow. So then it's just you and me at the top. And I drop into it. They had given me some really good advice. The guys that we were riding with were Aaron, who we already mentioned, Patrick, who is a 15-year-old who we mentioned. There was Ed, there was Ryland, there was Brett, there was Dane, who we knew and already knows us. So these guys they gave us all the tips, and then they flew down, and then it was like, okay, it's our turn. And so I was able to slow creep into this one. I was able to, and then get to a point where they said like you're kind of like off the brakes, and I could feel the tires I could feel my rear end start to swing out because I was hitting a little too much brake, and I knew that they said that you could let go of the brakes, so I did, and then the wheels hooked up again, and I rode it out very, very, very confidently, very controlled. I felt great, and then you're going to go and you're going to follow Patrick, so mainly because you want someone on the camera
on the footage. That's right. It really gives a perspective when you're going by yourself. You can't tell how steep something is, but if you have someone in front of you and then you start to point down and you're like, oh wow, now you get a real perspective. So
because you see how quickly they disappear. Exactly. You see how quickly they disappear also, how quickly they get small. That's how you could tell.
Yeah. So at this point I'd seen Patrick do this like 4 times, and each time he's doing something different. He's like launching off of it. So he gets back up to the top, and I'm like, Patrick, listen, I not to recall a phrase from our old episode, but to totally recall it. I said, Patrick, listen, I need you to ride this like a panda biatch. Like I need you to like be a grounded panda, do this like the slowest that you possibly can, like do not launch off of this. I want you on camera.
If you haven't listened to all of the podcasts, hopefully you're going back. If you haven't caught up, go ahead, listen to all of them and get caught up, because we have certain terms now. But we had a ride where we did with Brian on the bike, and we were riding the any style trail. And Brian is such a good jumper. He put so much boost in that Sage was like, could you not boost? And in that same episode, we had a review from Panda Biatch, and somehow we were asking Brian to be a ground biatch, a ground panda, not a ground biatch. Brian, don't be a biatch. We were asking Brian to be a ground panda. For once in your life, could you be a ground panda and not boost it? And so we were joking on the ride home that you said the same thing to Patrick. Can you be a ground panda?
Just please,
Patrick. And not jump off of the slab, just ride it normal? And he couldn't do it. What happened?
He throws in a nose pivot going down this thing. Like I'm just watching him. And so he did do it slow. Like, to credit to him, he did do it very slow. But of course, I'm following him.
He did a stoppie all the way down.
Stoppie all the way down.
Front wheel. He's riding his front wheel down this wall of a slab. Yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah. The best part of that slab, and the slab was cool. The best part was getting to the bottom and everybody is there just cheering because everybody's done that slab for the first time. And they knew what that felt like. And I got down and everyone's just like, and same for you, because you and I had never done these before. And just to watch everyone's stoke. And this is what we started the podcast with, when Dylan said that he went off of those 2 drops that he'd never done before. I instantly felt like this immense, like, dude, way to go. And that feeling was there at Natalie the whole time. Every feature that we did, everybody was super pumped. And man, I just, it makes you feel so good. You're excited, and then it makes you feel good. It's like this giant hug. Yeah.
Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments. What feature have you done where there's people there and you get that kind of support? You have that a moment like that. And also, what is the steepest slab that you've ridden? Where else are these really steep slabs? So I'm curious about that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Danny, before we move on to the next slab, I want to note that every single one of these slabs, it wasn't the slab that was actually the most difficult part. The most difficult part to these slabs was the entrance, getting into the actual slab. On that very first one, it was trying to get clipped in because there's no run in. On the second one, it was like this really slick dirt patch with like a root in the front. On the third one, that super long one, it was like this really, you had to like navigate this like turny thing. And then all of a sudden it got dirt that was really loose and then rock. So you had to be committed well before you got to the slab. The slab was easy, but once you touched the rock, you were like, okay, straight line, good to go. But everything before that required all of your attention and all your skills. So that meant that your commitment line had to be way, way back, and in some cases, the commitment line was like right at the start, but that was an eye-opening thing for me. Was like, I was taking note of that. Like every slab that we did, okay, the entrance is the trickiest part,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there that,
a lot of them, once you get into the actual slab, it's straight, but getting to it.
Yeah.
First of all, like they just built a slab. They would see the rock somewhere in the woods. And then they would be like, oh, we can make a slab out of that. so when you're riding it, when the beginning, it's just like, it's like 0 to 100. And we talk about some of these features like, oh, it's going to be over in a second, you know, like, and I'll just get into it, and I have confidence, and you commit, and you have the right form and everything, and it's going to be over in a second. Not these things, man. Like you're riding this thing for a long time. You're going as slow as you can until you go as slow as you can, because eventually you are not going to be able to go slow. You're not going to be able to even slow down. You're going to be going Mach chicken. It's unbelievably fast once you get to the bottom of these things. And yeah, that's a really good point. The entrance was typically really, really hard. And as we started to advance to the next couple slabs, the entrances only got harder and harder, I thought.
Yeah, man. Yeah. The next one, I'll let you tell this one, man. That next one was something else. Holy moly.
The next one they called the Canyon Slab. And this is like a crack in the earth over a ridge, and then full commit, and it's almost vertical, and it's also chunky. Yeah. We watched them do it, and everyone's back wheel came off of the ground. Like it's a long way down. And then the run out is very gravelly, and there's a left-hand turn almost right away. So you need to not only be able to ride the slab perfectly, but you also need to have control at the bottom. And I've ridden enough slabs where I have not necessarily ridden it perfectly. And what happens is that you lose control at the bottom. And so this thing, like my first instinct when I saw the other ones was like, wow, oh my gosh. But I wasn't like, I'm not going to ride this. This one, when I saw it, I was like, I don't know, dude. I don't know about this one.
Yeah.
And then you start to see these guys ride it, and they're so confident and they're so good.
What made this slab really, really tough, and again, because that's why I kind of brought the commitment line thing, because this one had a dirt slope to it that was also steep, by the way, you know, but you could try and brake, but you would just kind of slide to the edge of this thing. And so when I got to it, this reminded me a lot of the slab in terms of steepness and distance to the one at Blue Mountain Reserve. The difference there was the Blue Mountain Reserve was a plateau and then into the slab. This was like, let's do this really steep dirt sliding maneuver until you get to the slab and then slide off. And it just looked really uncomfortable. And so everyone that we had watched do it, because they were so confident and so talented, they were doing this very fast. Like they weren't even braking on the dirt. They were just like kind of rolling into it and wham. And so I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And so then it was Dane's turn. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Dane. He knows our skill level, and he knows us really well. I trust him a ton. So he gets on. He's also clipped. I think he's clipped. And he gets on, and he rides this so controlled. I mean, it looked so controlled. He braked and really did this dirt thing very slow. And watching him do that, I was like, oh, you know what? I might do this. Like, he's making that look really good. And then all of a sudden, at the bottom, when he goes to make the turn, you're going so fast, like you said, Mach chicken, and he goes off the edge of this berm into all these horrendous rocks. I mean, this place is all rocks. And oh my, poor Dane. He took a really hard fall. And that instantly, I was like, no, I'm good. I took that as like, I'm good.
Dane is okay. You said poor Dane, like something happened to him. Dane was laughing and joking around. 10 minutes later, he was fine. He had broke his dropper post lever, and he scratched up his elbow pretty good. But he was okay, and just gratitude that, because you pick up so much speed on these things. And again, if that had been a straight run out, he would have been fine. He would have recovered it. He didn't tumble off of the slab, but because it was gravelly and it turned, he went too far. It would turn to the left. He went too far to the right. He was going so fast. And then because it's gravelly, he washed out, and he ends up going hard into some rocks, and he got hurt, and he busted his bike. And so what was your decision making? Because I think that was obviously a big moment. We decided not to do that one, and we rode around. What was your decision? You talk about not looking for signs, but listening to signs.
Yeah. I went into that. And by the way, I did talk to Dane, and he said that was a bike that he was not used to riding. So he has
True.
an Orbea, and he was not used to riding that bike. And so the characteristics of the Geo on that bike and the shocks actually throw him off. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because that's one of those things where you want to know your bike, know thyself, but also know the equipment that you're riding. And Dane was saying that he thinks he would have been fine on the Orbea, and having that new bike is what kind of like threw him off at the end.
Yeah, he just simply wasn't quite warmed up, quite as confident on that bike, or just rode a little bit differently, and it threw things off, just by a little bit, which is enough on some of these high consequence features.
Yeah, it is. So, take that into consideration. We talk a lot about mindset, and we talk a lot about body position, but, equipment is that third piece. Know thy equipment. This isn't something where you're taking, a new bike or new pedals or new grips or whatever. Take that into consideration. Like, am I comfortable riding this rig? So I just wanted to say that. But in terms of reading the signs, I was already hesitant on that slab. And, for me, lately with this new mindset technique, part of that happens to be, looking at signs, opportunities. I want to be open to new opportunities, but I also want to be open to maybe the universe is telling me something. And as soon as I saw Dane crash, I was like, yeah, okay, I got it. Thank you, universe. That was a sign to me, like, dude, you don't need to do this. Like, you saw it, you were on the fence. It's time to back off, and let's let this be. And I think you felt the same way, because we both kind of walked away from that one. Like, you know what? Today's not the day. You don't want to see your good buddy go down like that.
Yes. I was very, very concerned about Dane. I'm glad he was okay, but that was a scary moment. And yeah, I think we were both very much on the fence, and seeing your buddy go down or anyone go down. But Dane's an amazingly good rider. He's really good. I know he's done that slab before, and I'm sure he'll be back and he'll do it again. But he's a really good rider. So to see him go down, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to push it. So it's really interesting that not necessarily looking for signs, but being open for signs, being open for opportunity, but being also open to signs. And we talked about this a lot. We have talked about listening to intuition and doing things for the right reasons. And I got kind of caught up into not doing that. And so we went to the next slab. I forget what they called this one.
Beeline.
Beeline, that's right. BEE, because Aaron got stung by a bee when he was discovering this one. And so what was this slab like?
Danny, I can you even call it a slab? It was basically a cliff edge. We just talked about, it was the steepness of the canyon drop that we just talked about, but like 3 times the length. And so there was 2 lines on this slab. There was the pro line, which up until that point, only Patrick had done. And then there was the B line, which is pretty much the rest of the slab, but you come into it in an angle. And so we watch Patrick do it. And of course, he launches himself into this thing. It's the most insanely scary thing I've ever seen. And his mom and dad are down there. And I'm just like, how are you able to watch your son do this? And then Ryland's like, you know what? I think I got this. And he goes up and he does the pro line. He was so good. He did that so smooth. And then we watched Aaron come up, and he did the beeline for us, and he made that look really smooth.
These guys are so good. They make it look so easy.
Yes.
They make it look so easy. How often do we say that? It looks easy when you do it right. It feels easy when you do it right. When you do it wrong, it doesn't.
But the fact that they made it look so easy. First of all, I wasn't contemplating doing this. When I walked up to it, I was like, there's no way. But then after watching them, I was like, you know what? Let me walk up there and take a look at this thing, because that looked pretty doable. We got up there, and I wasn't considering the pro line, but I was considering that B line, and it did look really doable, Danny. The slab portion itself looked kind of doable, but that entrance into it had me questioning it a little bit, because it was like this dirt, again, this really tricky dirt curve. And then for me, I would have probably thrown an endo turn to get into that slab. But Danny, what was your thought process here?
Yeah, so I was also going to be out on it. just looking at it like right away, like when we rolled up to it, I was like, I can't believe people are riding down this. And then I'm seeing them do it, and I was just like, wow, like they're so controlled. And you know, I have to keep in mind that I've been watching them do incredible things all day. I mean, these guys were riding alternate slabs that we were doing. They were riding different harder lines and making it look easy. All of these guys were, you know, and Rylan I saw do in the very beginning slab. He did like 3 or 4 different lines off of that ridge that I was like not even considering doing. So, you know, just like really, really talented and a lot of practice on these sorts of things. So who knows how many times he rode by that before he was like, today's the day, you know? So of course we're up here, and we've been trying to get up here for months, and it's our one time up here. And so that's in my head. Like, I don't know when we're going to be back. Wrong reason, right? But when I go up and I look at the B line, which is the sandy kind of entrance on the side, you're not starting at the top. And when I went to the bottom of the entrance and saw the rock from there, I thought, boy, this looks really doable. So I just got to ride this sand, and then I get on the rock, and I'm good to go. And I'm looking at it, I think I can do this. I think I could do this. And so they're on e-bikes. So they're kind of like doing laps on this thing, and it's just giving time. And I thought, well, maybe I'll go to the top and look at it, because I was on the fence, and we're here. Yeah. And I could visualize it. I could see it happening. Same thing on the reverse log skinny that I was attempting at Mount Penn and not getting, but I could see it happening. I knew I could do it. I just wasn't getting it. Now that one had a much smaller consequence for error. So I get my bike up to the top of the B line on this incredibly steep slab, and it's sandy like turn transition into the slab. But you essentially clip in and then like let go of a tree that you're hanging on to, and you're in it. Like, and so I'm just like, you know what? I think I can do this. I'm going to go for it. I can visualize it happening, but I haven't actually seen the line now in like 15 or 20 minutes, because I've ridden up to the top, and then I'm like stuck at the top trying to get clipped in. And I have a false start. I get clipped in, and I immediately like just wash out in the sand, and I fall to the left. And I was just like, what am I doing? Okay, hold on, you know, and I reset. Well, that was my second sign that this was not a good idea, right? The first sign was that we decided, first sign was that you were out on it. Now, I've done things that you haven't done, and you've done things that I haven't done. So that doesn't always mean...
The first sign was when we rode up to it, and Aaron said, that's the slab. And we're like... Where? Oh, that wall? That wall is? Yeah, that was the first sign. Oh my
like, God.
Where are we looking?
It's so crazy. It is so crazy. I know. So I'm like, all right, I need to ride down this sand, and I get to the rock, and I can ride down that rock. I know I can do it. And so I wash out, and I reset, and I go to do it again. And it's kind of like, I've been thinking about this a lot, because I failed. I never even got to the rock. Some part of my brain froze up before I even got to the rock. When this time I was further down the sand than the first time, and my brain froze up. And instead of falling to the left onto the mountain, I fell to the right and fell off of the mountain. And I fell I really fell off of this thing and into the woods. And I was right at Sage. Like if he has the video footage, I'm like falling right at him. And someone was looking out for me that day, because a tree caught me and it caught my leg, and I got a really nice bruise on my thigh. But other than that, I walked away. And I'll get more into afterwards, maybe in a little bit. But as far as like what I've been thinking about, first of all, I know I could do this. Secondly, when you know, it's like the feeling when you were heading into a really big lippy jump, and you just keep grabbing a little bit of brake, and then afterwards you're like, I didn't need to do that. Why did I grab the brake? Right? You keep brake checking, and sometimes you got to do that into that jump 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times until finally you convince your brain, I don't need to brake check here, and you let go, and then bam, you clear the jump. You got it, right?
Yeah.
But I did not have enough muscle memory and confidence in these super steep slabs of how to ride these things for me to be able to turn my brain off. And so my brain was on. and I couldn't just go into that default don't break check. And essentially what I did was I went past the commitment line. We talked about that in another podcast. Again, the commitment line is really as soon as you let go of the tree. I tried to stop. It's impossible. It's full commit. I'm past the commitment line. There's no stopping. I would have maybe been better off riding it. I don't know. If I was riding it with the wrong technique and I was too far back, it could have been a much worse crash. I walked away okay, so everything worked out all right. But it was a really good lesson, and I don't have that muscle memory for riding these steep slabs yet. I need to practice this more on smaller features, less consequential features. And so, so that I'm not ridinglaugh1@gmail and YouTube comments, the muscle memory of being able to do something versus thinking your way through it. We talk about that all the time because I think it's so relevant to mountain biking. And I just froze up. There was nothing wrong with the line. It's built the way that it's built. It's rideable. It was not the mountain's fault. It was my fault.
Yeah. It's funny because I have had to think through jumps, but when it comes to tech, I am very instinctual. And so I didn't have that kind of a fear of like, oh, I won't know what to do. My guidance system, my internal guidance system was, I have to be 100% sure. 98 ain't going to cut it. 90 ain't going to cut it. 100%. And I got up to the top of that, and I knew I had the skills to do everything that was required on that thing, but I couldn't get to that 100%. And I really wanted to do it because the endo turn was actually, if I was going to do it, it's actually to my strong side. Like swinging the back tire out to the left is actually my strong side. So everything about this was like, yes, Age, you got this slab. It's in your wheelhouse. The slab part itself is actually pretty short. It's like the canyon length, and there's no G out. We saw everybody do it. I felt really confident, but I didn't get to that 100% mark. And I walked away, man. I listened to that and I was like, you know what? Nope. Today is not the day. I'm having a great day. I feel great. We'll come back for this. I wasn't just there. And I was thanking the universe for, first of all, really glad that you were okay. I mean, that was insane to watch. If I didn't get like affirmation, like that was enough affirmation. I was like, yeah, okay, definitely. But man, that was the scariest thing. I remember you falling toward me and I'm like, I'm going to go. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, I put my hands out and I'm like, you're not going to stop. I was like, it was crazy. But the other part of that was just like, Donnie and Mary Beth were right there and they were right on it, man. And she was a doctor. Mary Beth was a doctor. She was right on it, man. She came up to you and just like at Mountain Creek and those kids that put you through the concussion protocol, she knew exactly what to do. And man, I'm just so grateful. So grateful. I'm so grateful you didn't get hurt. I mean, unbelievable, bro. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Someone was looking out for me. Like I said, I'm the kind of rider that doesn't fall off my mountain bike, but when I do, I don't get hurt. So yeah, I mean, I got a pretty good thigh contusion and, but for the most part, I walked away from that thing and Donnie and Mary Beth came right over and they were just really, really awesome and really sweet and really nice people. I gave her a big hug in the parking lot. It's just like, I'm so grateful that you were there. Even though I didn't need a doctor, they were just there, don't stand up right away, and move all your fingers and how's your neck. And, it's just the reassurance, but it was really just that human compassion, and that's what you want in that situation. And calm also, and calm. And then everyone just a lot of gratitude, like, hey, you're okay. You're okay. And my bike went tumbling down and, I saw the group of guys down there, like working on the bike before I even like stood up and got down, and luckily it was okay. Also, it didn't have a rider on it when it fell. So it was relatively light. It was just tremendous gratitude that it wasn't worse. And I was probably more like a 90% than 100. I definitely froze up. So we have to put everything into perspective. We had done 2 really big, cool slabs. We did really cool slabs afterwards too. And Aaron saw me hesitating and he even said, hey, no shame in walking away from this one. We have more coming up that are lower consequence. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm already up here and I rode the bike up and I think I know I can do it. So, I'll just ride. I didn't want to like turn around and ride down the trail, so silly, but sometimes the ego gets in the way. And, when that happens, it's kind of up for grabs. You want to have a little bit more control over our safety and over our success. And we do because we are free to walk away from anything that we're not 100% sure of. And I don't know how many times I need to get this lesson, but hopefully this is the last time, because as fun as it is to do a feature, nothing feels better than finishing the ride and feeling good and driving home and stopping in and getting some food, and you're healthy and you're strong and you feel good. And you don't think about what you didn't do. You think about what you did do.
I think what's really cool about this episode is we covered a lot of different things, and we talked about making sure that your mindset is in the right spot, but also making sure that your equipment, you're comfortable with what you're riding and how you're riding that day. But pay attention to all of those different things. We talked about the commitment line. We talked about doing things for the right reason and not letting your ego get in the way. And what are some of those reasons? Oh, I'm never going to be here. When's the next time I'm going to be here? Or man, I really want to look good going down this thing, or whatever it is. Make sure that all those things are in line. And that's the thing, right? When we're doing a consequence like the reverse skinny on D. Snyder, the consequence there isn't that high. So it's okay to not be 100% on that, because you're most likely not going to get hurt. Like, you might fall, but like, big deal. These slabs, I mean, literally, you could really, I can't stress this enough. The consequence for you, how lucky you got. And the thing is, when the consequence is that high, then you have to be 100% sure. Everything has to line up perfectly, and I think that's what I want the listeners to come away with, listen to yourself, know all those things, study all those things. But having said that, though, what an amazing day. I can't wait to go back. That whole group was so stoked, and everybody there was so patient and kind.
Awesome group.
Patrick was unbelievable.
Group. Yeah. And this was their Sunday ride. Like, one of the guys had a newborn. He left early. I think it was Brett, but he left early because he had like a 2-week-old, and another guy had to leave early because he was taking his son to soccer. And they were like, we're just going to be patient and help you guys through this, because we love mountain biking and we love the stoke of seeing people ride our trails and conquer these features. And like, they were just like, it was such a high stoke, like really just awesome group of riders. Really, really impressive, and like really encompassed what we talked about in the last episode with that mountain bike community and how cool mountain bikers are and what makes mountain bikers awesome. Like, these guys were all of that, and among like the best riders I've ever seen. I mean, they live with where these gnarly trails are. Oh, and we didn't even talk about the jumping. We ran into some jumps. I mean, we're out of time, but we ran into some jumps, and we sessioned them a little bit. And we saw Aaron and Patrick send these jumps like to the moon with style.
To the moon.
High speed trail jumps with like incredibly steep takeoffs and steep landings, really well built. But I mean, these guys are the full package as far as like tack and jumping. It's just amazing. And where you can have progression at a place like that, where you can just ride lap after lap after lap. I mean, it just really sharpens the point on the spear of these riders. I mean, they were so impressive. But what was the most impressive was just how cool they were. They was just such a great group.
Well, speaking of great things, what is your gratitude for this week?
My mountain bike gratitude of the week could also be a tip of the week, and it's something that I've been using after my crash, and it's called Arnica.
Oh.
And you can take it orally, or you can take it, you can use it topically. And I think it's a flower. It's homeopathic. It can be a gel, and it's also a tablet. You can get it at the drugstore, but it really helps with bruising. If you don't have an open wound and you can put it on a bruise, it really helps. And I've been using a tremendous amount of Arnica this week on my bruised thigh, and I've been ingesting it, and I heal really, really quickly. I think that's part of being fit. So I went from walking with a pretty good limp Sunday and Monday, and I'm already starting to feel a lot better, and I'm using a lot of Arnica. And I really do think that it helps to heal. So if you're a mountain biker, having some topical and oral Arnica in your bag and certainly in your medicine chest is a great idea. And I do appreciate when I need it. So my mountain bike gratitude of the week is for the homeopathic medicine Arnica. That's Arnica. And I'll put a link in the show notes as far as the type that I use, but you can get it really at any drugstore. So.
Yeah, I've used the Arnica as well. I was using Bengay before that, but as soon as you introduced me to the Arnica, I was like, yeah, I'm totally going with the Arnica. It does the same thing and it's natural. Love it. My mountain bike gratitude is going to Aaron. What an amazing rider, so talented and so gracious with his time. We've said this a million times in this episode, and I just have to say it again. Thank you, Aaron, and all your friends for taking us out and showing a bunch of noobs how to do it, and just being so kind and patient. And I hope that we get to do it again. And I hope that we get a little redemption. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, I hope we get a little redemption on this stuff. My mountain bike tip, and I'll do my best to explain this because this is actually going to be pretty complicated because this is going to go against everything that you've probably heard on YouTube in terms of how to ride your mountain bike. So in most cases, the idea is to keep your weight over your bottom bracket. That's number one goal, is to keep your weight over the bottom bracket. When you get to these higher consequence slabs, and I'm talking about, anything over 45, 50 degrees. So we're talking pretty vertical. It's
steeper. By higher consequence, you mean steeper.
Yes, steeper slabs. It gets impossible to get behind the bottom bracket. It's not possible. You can't. You'll be sitting on top of your back tire if you tried to get your weight over the bottom bracket. And so the technique for these steeper slabs is you're going to have to get your rear end over the back tire. That's going to happen naturally as you crest over the slab. If it's one of these slabs where you're cresting over it, your rear end is going to go over your back tire. As soon as you are on the slab, this is going to be uncomfortable. You have to get back upright on your bike. What you don't want is you don't want to ride this thing and your hands are fully out and your feet are fully out and you are pushed back to the back of the bike, because what happens is now you have taken away all of your suspension. You have taken away all your mobility. If something were to go wrong, you're already back. There's nowhere else to go. You can't, I'll go farther. You can't go farther back. So if you can get yourself, so as soon as you get crest over that slab and you start to go down it, readjust your body position. And so now you're almost perpendicular, I guess, to the slab. Maybe it's not that far, but you want to get some bend back into your arms, get some bend back into your feet. And that way, when you make that transition at the bottom, your body's ready to take that impact and absorb whatever happens. And as well as if there's something in the slab, sometimes you don't get a flat slab. Sometimes there are moves or bumps that you have to make. And if you are all the way back, my goodness, I mean, if you are all the way back, the first bump that you hit on the back tire, I guarantee will send you forward. So I'll try and throw some video in here. So if you're watching on the YouTube, you'll be able to see the technique that I'm talking about. But it goes against everything that you've been taught, because everything that you've been taught to this point has been weight over the bottom bracket. And that's just impossible on some of these steep slabs. Danny, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. And looking at these guys ride these slabs was very, very eye-opening to me, because it was not something that I had ever seen before. And Aaron was talking about this technique, and that's part of the reason I shouldn't have done that last one, is because I didn't exactly know the technique. And I've ridden steep slabs before, some better than others. But if you are too far back, if your arms are extended, I was just watching this on YouTube the other day. If your arms are extended, they are like ropes. So when you get to the bottom, the ropes are going to pull you forward and you're going to go over the bars. Or your front, all your weight's in the back and the front wheel comes off and you lose control. What these guys are doing was getting their chest pretty close to their handlebars. And then Aaron was saying, and Patrick was saying, at the bottom, they're pushing into, at the transition, they're pushing the bike through the transition. So that you're going so fast, and some of these G-outs are so strong that you have to push the bike into it. And I saw them get into this position where they're relatively forward. And when you're going steep down something, all your instinctive brain wants to do is get away from the danger. So people go all the way back. And that's where I've certainly found myself in the past. These guys are leaning really forward, and I don't even want to say leaning. They're just like in a really powerful attack position, and their arms are really, really bent, and their chest is really close to their handlebars, and they are getting ready, and they are going to push into the transition. So it's something that definitely takes a lot of practice. I look forward to practicing it just even anywhere, just anywhere that's easy and starting to get the feeling of that. But I think that's an excellent, excellent tip. I think it's something that we can all work on. RideandLaugh1@gmail.com, YouTube comments. Steepest slabs that you've ridden, best slabs that you've ridden. What is your technique for riding slabs? Is what Sage and I are saying correct? There's going to be video on YouTube if you're watching of these guys riding it, and maybe we can put it in slow motion so you could see some of that technique. But I would love to get some more input. This is something that I definitely want to get better at. I thought that Sage and I thought we did a great job that day. I thought when I was watching you looked fantastic. You looked centered and in control. Yeah, I was very happy for you, and like I knew you could have done anything that they showed us there. Like you looked really, really good, and I was glad that you walked away and said not today. I mean, that was really, really big of you, and I think this is something that I'm excited to practice and get better at.
Love it, brother. Bring us home. Bring us home.
If you're still listening, you are definitely one of us. You are a mountain biker. We appreciate you. Gratitude. Rate and subscribe on your podcast player, and give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and hit the notification bell. Everybody have a fantastic week of riding. We appreciate you. Ride and laugh.
I'll see everyone.